Hey friends, welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful day. This week I wanted to put together another meal plan video for doing the lion diet. And if you've never heard of the lion diet, it is a diet where you only eat ruminant meat that will be red meat, salt, and water. And this is a great elimination diet to reset and figure out what foods your body might not be tolerating, what foods are causing you to be sick. A lot of people have healed their autoimmune disorders with this, have gotten their weight in order, and have healed just so many things. I know my mental health has already majorly improved just in this past month of doing this diet. There's just so many benefits that can come out of this. And I know when I first started, I had a hard time being motivated to make good meals, and that made it very easy for me to fail. So I wanted to put out some ideas of meals you can make. All of these meals are absolutely delicious. I don't even feel like I'm missing out when I get to eat these things. So I hope that it will give you some good ideas or inspiration, and I'll just show you what I've been doing for myself this past month on this diet. I've got this roast right here. I am going to get this salted up, and then I'm going to cover it with foil and cook it on low for 2 or 3 hours, and then maybe turn up the heat for 1 more hour, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with it after that. Okay, I've cooked this for 2 hours covered on low heat. Now I'm about to put it back in on a higher heat for 1 more hour. I first had this on 300 degrees for 2 hours covered. Now I have it on 350, and it's going to cook for 1 more hour. For the last 10 minutes of the cooking on 350, I turned the temperature up to like 450 and just let it get a little extra of that Maillard reaction on the outside. And now what I'm going to do is put it in a pan with some bone broth that I made, and we're going to boil it up until it falls apart as a nice pot roast. So this is some bone broth that I made. I used lamb bones for this one, but you can use any bones you want. Since it's lion diet, it should be a ruminant animal at least. Beef bones are really easy to get. I just found some lamb bones online that weren't very expensive and just boiled them up for several hours, and this is what you get. You want it to be jelly-like like this. So I'm going to use this broth because it's very nutritious, and it's just going to add a lot of nutrition and richness to the pot roast. Just let the pot roast in there. Look, we got all those yummy juices. Just put them. And there we go. Just gonna cover it and let it come up to a boil now. Okay, this roast is now fork tender, so I'm going to break it apart. Here is the meat, and I'm just going to reduce this broth down a little bit so it can have more concentrated flavor, and I will add the beef back in shortly. And I'm also going to add some more fat because there's not a lot of fat in here. I just put a few scoops of beef tallow in there, and it's melting down now. Okay, here is the stew, and let's give it a taste. Got a little broth and meat in that. Very simple, very delicious. And this just happens to be grass-finished beef. Not for any particular reason. You certainly don't have to get it. That's just what I have on hand for this. And it's good. So I've just salted all of these ribs, and what I'm gonna do is let them sit in the fridge for the next few hours before I cook them up. This is a great way to let that flavor soak into the meat. It brings out more of the beefiness and it tenderizes the meat. So I'm gonna let the salt sit on this for a few hours, and then I'm gonna cook it up, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do to cook it in the oven. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned what these are before, but these are flanken cut short ribs. They come from the part of the ribs near the chuck. They are very, very good. They're very good for braising as well, to help them really become nice and tender and just fall off the bone. So what I'm doing with these, since they didn't fit on my tray, I have them salted, and I have them on this tray that is raised to let the air flow around. I've salted both sides of this, and I'm just gonna let this dry brine. I don't think I'll cook these up tonight, so these will be ready to go for me to cook tomorrow, and I'll show you what I do with them. Okay, I've popped these in at 350, and they're going to go for an hour, and then I'm gonna turn the temperature up. The short ribs are done. They took less time than I thought, so they cooked on the lower temperature, I think it was 350, for more like 30 minutes, and then I blasted them on 450 Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes, and they are nice and crispy now. Okay, and here's some of the ribs. We'll give that a taste as well. I'm just do the small piece right here. I've been missing having meat off the bone. This one is also grass-fed and grass-finished. Just 'cause that's what I can. That's what I got, not for any particular reason. It is not necessary. Get whatever beef you prefer, taste-wise, price-wise, you know. I found some of the grass-fed beef sometimes has more of a beefy flavor, but the fattier cuts have more of that grassy taste that I'm not a fan of, so it really depends on what cut you get in terms of flavor with the grass finished. Good stuff. So this is what the short ribs look like after they have been salt brining overnight. They are a bit deeper of a red, and I don't think it's picking up very well, but you can tell that it's got a good dryness on the outside, and that's just going to give it a nice crisp. I enjoy these when they get nice and crispy on the outside, because especially this connective tissue on the back, it becomes crunchy and it's a lot easier than chewing it. I have a hard time chewing connective tissue, but when it becomes crunchy, then I can eat everything off the bones, and it's really good. I'm just going to bake these on 450 for like 30 to 40 minutes, and then they'll be ready. Here is the finished product. So I just cooked these at 450 for 45 minutes. So this is a rib cap steak, and what I'm going to do is slice it into strips and cook those up as steaks. There's a little bit of silver skin on the back here, so I'm just going to get that off real quick. Look at that marbling. Wow, just wow. Oh, look at that gorgeous meat. Yes. Oh my goodness, that marbling is to die for. This is so good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brine this just like I did with the ribs, and that's going to help really enhance the flavor. Last time I dry brined one of these, it was absolutely incredible. I'm gonna get these salted up. What you want to do is make sure you cover them with salt on every single side, so that way nothing is left uncovered with the salt, so no bacteria could get on there. That's the main point of it, and you want all of that salt to just soak into the muscle meat, and it's going to really enhance the flavor. And I really like how it gives the steak wonderful flavor, and it also helps it get a really good crust because it'll dry it out a little more, which is interesting because even though it's dried out, it ends up being more tender, and it takes out that water so you can get a really good crust. So I've been enjoying doing that with this cut, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'll show you when it's all prepared. So the key with dry brining is to make sure that nothing is touching, that way airflow can get all around, and you want to have it on a rack that's raised so that way the air can get underneath as well. And I'm just going to put this in the fridge and let it sit overnight, and we'll cook it up tomorrow. So there's our steak strips, nice and dry. Oh, look at that. Let's give it a taste. So usually the flanken cut ribs will come in a pretty big package, so I'm going to show you another way that you can prepare them if you don't want to bake them in the oven, or maybe if you don't want to cook them as long. So first thing we're going to do is do a saltwater brine and let it sit overnight. This helps tenderize the meat and helps with the flavor and just overall juiciness after cooking. So just covered these with salt and added some water. You know, just make sure the water is salty enough that it'll actually soak into the meat, and you can salt to your preference, but this is just going to sit in the fridge overnight. Okay, here are the ribs that were in a saltwater brine overnight. So I've just sliced these up a little smaller because the whole pieces have a tendency to curl up when they're cooking, so we're just doing individual bite sizes. Now I'm just cooking these in a grill pan, but if you had a grill that would be even better. I don't have a grill, I've got nowhere to put one, so this is how I'm achieving that effect. So here we are. I put some long ones on there as well, and there's the cut ones, and let's see how it tastes. The cooking fast version definitely changes the flavor profile. So it really just depends what you like. It's a little more steaky this way. And the one in the oven, I don't know how to describe that one really, but the flavor profiles are different. So try them both out, see which one you like more. I cannot stop eating them. They're so good. I was just eating them while I was finishing cooking them up. These are so good. So this is a brisket I've just been brining in salt water. We're gonna pour out the water and get it ready to slow cook in the oven. Okay, so I've just sealed this up nicely with some aluminum foil, and we're gonna throw it in the oven on 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 to 3 hours. I'll let you know exactly how long it takes before we get to the next step. So this has cooked for about 6 hours, a lot more than I expected. But once it becomes a lot more tender and not so tough, we're going to uncover it and blast it on the highest temperature that the oven can go on and let that fat on the top crisp up. So you could put it on broil on the highest temperature for a few minutes and just let it crisp up the fat on top, and I'll show you what it looks like. And there we are. Nice crust on the outside. Hear that? So just gonna let it rest and then we can eat it. And there is the finished product. So this was about 2.5 pounds and it took 6 hours to cook. So if you've got a bigger one, just keep that in mind. The important part is keep it covered, cook it low and slow. It's a great thing to start earlier in the day, and then just getting a nice crust on it at the end really brings out that flavor. As I'm editing this, I just want to go ahead and apologize for my rudeness of talking with my mouth full. I've never been much of a proper lady, so I'm really sorry. That's a bad habit, and I'll try and be more aware of that in videos. I hope I didn't trigger anyone, but I still appreciate you watching till the end. I hope that was helpful. Maybe that gave you some inspiration, or you just enjoyed seeing the different cuts of meat that you can enjoy on the carnivore diet. I have not felt deprived at all. This was an amazing experience for me, and I was just so excited to eat the meat every time. I didn't get tired of eating it, and I can tell this is what my body wants. So I will never stop eating red meat. It has helped me so much, and it's continuing to help me. And I highly recommend this diet to people who are unwell and want to figure out what's wrong with them. It's meant to be an elimination diet to reintroduce foods and see what they are doing to your body. Do it for a certain amount of time, at least 1 month. More like 3 months is a good marker, because then that will really help you be able to get that deep healing. And I think eventually I will do that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching to the end, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.